Hey, everybody, welcome to the 30-inch step. I'm here with Dr. Sam Arnold. Dr. Arnold, we really appreciate you sitting down with us today. Um, why don't we start off with, let's start off in the beginning. Where was you born? Where'd you grow up?
Okay, I was born July 19th, 1941 in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I grew up and I went to school at North Avondale and then I went to Walnut Hills. When I graduated, I went to University of Cincinnati and graduated. Then I went to Ohio State University College of Dentistry, graduated in 1967, and then spent 2 years in the military, and then came back and I took over my uncle's practice.
So,
And
with growing up in especially in Avondale, um, that's kind of a dangerous part of town. Was it?
It's funny. People all say that, but you're a lot younger than me.
That's fair.
And in the 40s, it was wonderful. They had just built north. We had bought a house on Warwick Avenue, and I walked a half a block to school because at the top of Warwick, I met Clinton Springs, and on the other side, they built North Avondale School. They have since torn down the school and rebuilt it. And they asked me to speak because I was a graduate. And I thought, my God, how far back are they going? Anyway, it's that's why my parents bought that house because they were building a school there, and I started there in the third grade and graduated in sixth, and then went to Warner Hills.
That's cool. Right on. So when you left for the army, what year did you end up leaving to go in the army?
Let's see. I uh, I graduated in 1967, and I went into the army pretty much right away. I went to Fort Sam Houston, Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio for uh, basic training. Well, we were all doctors. So the basic training wasn't like normal basic training. I never carried a gun. I never had to march. Uh, we camped out at a place called Camp Bullis. Now the tents were giant tents. It was a concrete floor. We had beautiful beds and beautiful mattresses, and it was sort of like um, a very very high end basic training course.
Right on.
In other words, we didn't do anything the other guys did.
So so you go through this basic training. How long was that training?
That was 6 weeks,
6 weeks.
and we stayed down there and we finished our basic training. Then we got our orders, and I was uh, luckily given the order to go to Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, New York. I was right down where the Verrazano Bridge goes over to Staten Island, and it was great duty station. I did dentistry on troops, and uh, one day a week I got off to go play golf because that was PT, my PT train. Yeah, right, exactly.
I
And it
so
was right up the road, and we got on for I think $5.
it's funny you say that. So when I was at Camp Lejeune,
Oh yeah, they didn't
I
have that.
well they have a golf. They actually
Oh,
have two golf courses
two
on that
golf
base,
courses. Yeah.
but the battalion had a uh, intramural team, and we would play against the different units across the
Right.
base.
Yeah.
Well, one of the first outings that we did, they paired me up against the CO of the brig,
Oh my God,
and
he was
they're,
pretty good,
they're
wasn't
all out there. Hey Jerry, hey Bill,
he?
that
Yeah.
that kind of
Right.
stuff, and here I am.
Yeah.
I'm barely a corporal, and
Yeah.
they he
He whipped you.
no, I
Really?
tore him up. And
Wow.
as we were getting back into the
I'm
parking lot and
impressed.
putting our bags and stuff in our car, um, the one guy, he goes, hey sir, you want me to grab your bag and put it in the trunk? he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I looked over and I was like, sir, huh? He was like, yeah. And he shook my hand and was like, I'm the CO of the brig
Oh
here on
my God.
base. And I'm like,
What was he, a colonel?
he was a lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
And again, here I am, a junior Marine. Like,
Yeah, right.
shoot.
You're a
I'm
grunt.
sorry, sir. But like,
Yeah.
so the training then at Fort Hamilton, was that um like a lead up to deploying?
No, no, no. When I got to Fort Hamilton after Texas, I just went into the clinic. There was no training. Now, when I got my orders for Vietnam, my wife was 2 weeks pregnant. Then I got my orders. Okay, so my ARVN training for Vietnam was 2 days at Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Oh wow.
Okay, the only thing I learned down there was how to take apart and put together an M16, which I paid attention to, and I was in the front row. I thought this is something that I probably should know how to do. And there are guys sitting to the left and right of me that were privates, and I knew they were going to be out on destroy missions, and they're sleeping. So I said, well, it's up to them. Anyway, unfortunately, paying attention maybe saved my life, but it was just that was 2 days, and then I went back to Fort Hamilton and packed up, and we moved to Columbus, and I left from Columbus at the airport and flew to San Francisco, and from San Francisco to Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, so okay, so we're leading into the, that time of your life that, um for a lot of the guys and gals that are going to be watching this, right? um you hear, man, I'm going to Vietnam.
Right.
I'm getting into country.
Yeah.
um what what two things: what was the flight like, and
Well, the closer
what was the temperature in the
we
air?
went from California to Hawaii, gassed up the plane again, went to Okinawa, gassed the plane up, and then we took the short hop down to Vietnam. And then the closer we got to Vietnam, the mood got more somber and more somber. So we get to Vietnam and we get off the plane, and that there's a line of guys that are going to be getting on the plane and they're going home because their tour is over. So you kind of mixed emotions about that. So they put us I was with the doctors. They put all the doctors in a tent and they put the dentist over in a corner. Well, when I was at Ohio State at University Hospital that was right attached to the dental school, they had a dental chair there that they did emergency extractions for in the ER. So you could volunteer and work there. So I did some nights a week or whatever. Anyway, I had quote hospital experience. Now, when you're there's two residents, physicians, and you. Well, if you get four patients in, guess who goes to work as a real doctor? The
The
dentist.
dentist, yeah.
Right. So I learned how to intubate a patient, do a cut down on a leg, and I'll even put in sutures on areas other than the mouth. But when I got to Vietnam, I'm up and standing with the guys, and the whoever was up in front with the clipboard said, "Does anyone here have hospital experience?" And instead of yeah, thanks, Brian. Instead of thinking, I
You see what
reacted.
it says on my shirt, right?
Yeah, right.
Voluntold.
You got that right. So anyway, they said that I'm left-handed. My left hand moved maybe 3 inches, and the guy saw the movement. He says, "Okay,
Sold.
yeah, sold. You are now the dentist the division dentist of the 82nd Airborne, which may sound really great. The only downside to that was wherever the airborne went, Dr. Arnold went.
So tell me this: where at in Vietnam were you? Because
Okay,
again, for a lot of the people like me, like, hey, Iraq, Afghanistan,
right.
those countries,
Well,
I can tell you exactly where things
everyone
are.
landed in Saigon. That's south.
Sure.
Okay. So I got my orders for the 82nd. I'm going up to Phu Bai, which is real close to the DMZ. So hey, they said to me, they said, okay, well, you're going to go up country, so you'll leave at night. So I left at night and I looked at my orders. I was supposed to go to the 56th Dental Detachment. They had me assigned to the 56th Mechanized Division. Now, I knew that I knew very little on how to take care of a
Now you
truck.
just became the battalion
Yeah, right.
surgeon.
So I figured they lost me. Well, shame on you. So when we landed at Vong Tau on our way up, I got off the plane. I had my duffel bag with me. I had my orders and all my folders with me. I was gone. So I went, I checked into the BOQ, and then I went, stayed there a couple of nights, got back on a plane, went to Cameron Bay. And the reason I did that, they had water skiing there, and I know how to water ski. So I water skied for a few days. Finally, I knew they were going to be trying to look for me. So I went over. I said, there's something wrong here.
You know, that's like the most Army thing you've ever said to me.
Oh, really?
That you went
Yeah.
to a place where they were water skiing in a combat zone.
Well, Cameron Bay was not a combat zone at all. It was wonderful. Anyway, I went in and I told them that I showed them my orders. Well, Doctor, Captain Arnold, they made a mistake. Here were your new orders. So I went up to Phu Bai. I land at Da Nang, and they tell me to go in to the terminal, pick up the phone in the northeast corner, wherever that was, and call for a Jeep, and they'll take you out to the 95th Evac Hospital until you get a ride up to Phu Bai. So I went over the corner, and I picked up the phone, and the wires were cut. Well, here I'm lost again. So, you're getting a little, you want to get to where you're supposed to be. So I went out and I just hitched a ride up to Phu Bai. So I get there and no, I'm sorry. I'm in Da Nang and I'm waiting to get a ride up to Phu Bai. So they said to me, every morning you had to go out to the helipad and stay there. It started at 8 o'clock. And every chopper that came in, when they took off, you asked where they were going. If they're going to Phu Bai, you get on. So I said to the guy, I said, look, I said, I'm Jewish. I said, my mother drove me everywhere I had to go. I said, I've never hitched a ride anywhere. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to the 95th Evac here, see if I can help out the doctors there because I knew, what to do in an OR. So I did that and I stayed there for about a week and a half. So finally, I said, okay, I'm not going to get on a helo. What's another way to go north? They said you take a convoy. Bad, 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 bad idea.
Well,
So, yeah. Well, you had a 98% chance of being ambushed.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I didn't break the odds. There were 4 deuce and a half loaded with guys. I'm sitting in the last seat next to the gate on the passenger side in the second truck.
Now you said before that you learned how to break down the M16, and did you have your own, or
well they
did you have a
they let you
sidearm?
go out and fire one magazine. So they said shoot down range there. Well, I saw a nice little tree there. I just cut it in half. So I had fun with it.
Sure.
But that's it. That was the only combat training I had. Was firing one clip, 18 rounds, and
Wow.
an M16.
Wow. So
Yeah. Well, they think,
So
what
now-
would I ever have to do this?
well, and fast forward to this, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, I realized to myself, I said, I had no. Now, what I did when I landed at Long Beach and went to, to Thompson Air Base, that was you climatized there for a few days, and then you went you got your orders. But I'm going through the line, and I'm going in there, and there's a line coming out. They're getting on the bus to leave Vietnam. And there was a lieutenant there with a 45. So I stop him, and I said, Lieutenant, whose firearm is that? He says, it's the Army's. I said, I want it. I said, you're leaving. I'm coming in. I need it. You don't. He said, well, I'm supposed to turn it in. I said, you see these 2 bars on my shoulder? They beat the 1 bar on yours. So this is direct order. I didn't even know what I was doing. But he gave me his gun, his belt, his cleaning kit, and all his ammo and extra clips.
wow.
So, yeah, well, so I'm the only one getting on that truck with a firearm. So I'm sitting by the gate, and they say there was this saying, which has been through the history of all warfare, the first shot is Charlie's. So until the enemy fires at you, you don't know you're in a combat situation. Well, unfortunately, there's a kid sitting next to me. His name was Joey. The first round hit him below the helmet in the neck.
Thanks.
Yeah, when the AK-47 just about took his head off. He fell to the ground. Of course, all the trucks stopped. I reached down and grabbed his M16. Now, there was a clip in the gun. Thank you. I don't know how many rounds are in there, but I didn't have time to examine it. I grabbed the gun. I vaulted out, and I was younger then. I could do that stuff. Vaulted out and went to the passenger side and got in the ditch alongside the road. Don't ask me why. Everybody else went across the road. And they're shooting up on top. There's 3 NBA up there that have AKs. And I don't know what else, but they have plenty of ammunition. So they're shooting down on 80 guys, and on the other side of the road, they're shooting up.
Is this during the daytime?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
So I knew what a few guns sounded like firing. When you have 80 guys firing their M16, it's really, really noisy.
it is. It is quite noisy.
You can hear yourself think. So I look across the road and I see the sergeant, and we made eye contact, and he holds his hands up and says, "Look, stay where you are. Don't try to come across the road. You'll never make it." So I put my hands up and I understood that. So I'm standing there. Now's the time of that reckoning. Okay, I got 2 choices to make. I know that if I stay where I am, these guys on the other side of the road eventually will all be killed because the enemy on top had at the angle. If they didn't bring a radio to call for air backup, who knows? Nobody was coming.
What kind of distance to their position to where you guys are?
20 yards.
Oh wow, so they're really close.
They're right almost on top of it.
Oh wow.
So I said to myself, my wife is home pregnant with my first child. Do I worry about that, or do I worry about the 80 guys over there? Well, the right choice, and I made it, was my men. I'm the captain, they're not. I'm responsible. I know I'm a doctor. I know I'm not trained in combat and everything, but rank is rank. So I thought to myself, I got to address this situation. I crawled up the ditch, went up, climbed the hill behind these 3 people, snuck down to them. I took the M16, I put a round in the chamber and put on an automatic. There were 18 rounds. I took the clip out and checked. It was full. There's 18 rounds in a clip, and they call it the 18 rounds of artificial respiration. Well, I sprayed these 3 guys. I killed all 3 with 18 rounds. Anyway, I holler down, ceasefire, ceasefire, I'm an American. It kind of sound like an American. So they stop firing. Now, I'm doing pretty good here. I walk over, and of course, they're full of bullet holes, and they're lying there. I take out my 45. There's 7 rounds in a clip. I block and load, and I put 2 rounds in the back of each of their heads. What I want is that full metal jacket to come out their face and nobody can identify them. Because I don't want anybody up north, the wife or the husband or the father or mother, whatever it is, to be able to and not know. I don't want them to ever know what happened to their kid. So anyway, I did that. Then I had 1 round left in the chamber. Then I realized what I had done. And I realized I'm not a combat soldier. I'm a doctor. And I almost took the gun and put it to my head and pulled the trigger. But instead, I lowered the hammer, put it back in my holster, and went over in the bushes and threw up. Now, the convoy went on. I got up to Fubai, and I never said a word. Never said a word. Nobody else was talking about it either. So they dropped me off. I'm not going where they're going. But anyway, they dropped me off, and so I went on with my life in the military.
Let me ask you this.
Go.
So you got my heart pumping.
Mine was too.
So how long did it take you to come to terms with that? Hear me out here. So the things that we see in combat, the things that we end up having to do, it lingers with us, and it's we don't want our loved ones
Nope.
to see the hurt that we have, see
You
the
internalize it.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the World War II guys out there, that I grew up around and whatnot, I would hear from the Vietnam veterans that they would basically, when they came back, and VFW, American Legion, whatever the case may be, they would go into these places, and you all would be wanting to talk to them, and they'd shove the beer in your hand.
Yeah.
And this is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Shove it down.
Right.
Don't let it out.
Right. Go on. Take the step forward.
Right. They never. And this is the whole point of this show, right? Is how are you supposed to take the 30-inch step if the guys before you are sitting there saying, no, you stagnate. You don't let that.
Right.
Push it down. We don't need that. And this is where we lead into faith and our walk through life, our 30-inch step, our own 30-inch step. And so how do you, after something like that, how did you, because we're in 2026 and that was 1967.
Right.
That's almost 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So when did you realize something's not right? When did you say, I don't want this? And how did you get help? How did you move forward?
The thing is, no, but you are a United States Marine. The United States Marine Corps is the only branch of the military that figured out how to do this. I know the lady in charge of the post-traumatic stress clinic at the VA on Vine Street. She not only runs that, but she also runs every VA in the United States. But she's not a Marine. But the Marines figured out, and when I heard about it, it made all the sense to me that when they went out on a search and destroy mission, that's what we called them in Vietnam, and someone got shot, wounded, or killed, when they got back to the base, the one thing they never did now was go to bed. They all gathered around the campfire and everybody talked. No one got to go to bed until they opened their mouth and talked about their feelings on how they felt about what happened that day in combat. Yeah, talked about the guy that was killed, the guys that were wounded, the kind of people they were, it said whatever you knew about them. But everybody had to talk. The reason is when you start that way, you continue that way. If you start with your mouth shut, you will keep your mouth shut the rest of your life. That's wrong.
Well, and for myself, combat in 2003, seeing the things that I saw, and having to, a gentleman had been shot in the face by his own people, by the Republican Guard, and the description that I use is the movie Predator. That guy states how it was like slayed up, and it had split his bottom jaw in half, and his brother-in-law, and his father-in-law were dragging him out of the city. This is when we dropped leaflets and said, "You all need to get out of here." And he had been helping Americans, and because he had been helping Americans,
they killed him.
I hope that he's alive, because he was then. And when they were dragging him down the street, he had his arm over one, arm over the other, and they were dragging him down the road, and they're pleading with us to help. And
good.
In my mind, I'm like, well, I'll just use what's in my individual first aid kit. But that's for me.
Yeah,
that's for me. So I'm not going to be able to do that, right? And so, having to send him down the road. There's a hospital down the road. Take him down there. Keep going. Now, with the blood loss, with everything, I'm almost certain that man passed away.
I'm sure he did.
But that stuck with me for a very long time, and it took me from that point. I wanted to go and start talking about it when I got back from my Philippines deployment, and the doctor prescribed me medication called Trazodone. Now, you're a doctor, you understand, and Trazodone, it numbed me to a point that my younger son had like skinned his knee riding a bicycle or something in a driveway, and I looked at him and was like, "Oh, that sucks. Go see your mother." And in my mind, I'm screaming at myself, "What are you doing, idiot? Go help your son." All I wanted to do was talk.
You just said it in the nutshell, didn't you? Let me explain something to you. When you're sick, okay, when you get the flu, when you get an infection, when you get something wrong with you, your heart isn't beating correctly, they can give you a medication to fix the problem.
Right.
However,
how do you fix the brain?
When you have a problem in your mind, the only thing they can give you, maybe a sleeping pill to knock you out to go to sleep. But the other drug is what they call a psychotropic drug. And the only there's only one downside. As long as you take the drug, it blocks the thought process.
It's the receptors in your brain
Right.
that
But
it
you're a
keeps that
zombie.
from right.
You are not
Right.
living in the real world.
Right.
You have children, you have a wife, you have a life, and you're living it in an unnatural state.
Right.
But if you go off the drug, then you're right back where you were before.
Well, and now you're going through withdrawals because
Right.
it has that nice little ONE on the
Yeah,
end of it.
right.
Methadone, trazodone,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You're done.
I remember when I was 16 years old, and my parents had bought my grandmother's house. She got old and ended up being a nurse, and of course they had a big house with all the kids. The kids left home, and anyway, they they got bought my grandmother's house. Maybe it was I was 18, probably. I'm ready to go to college. In any case, um, my mother says to me, and I'm just my sister, my brother are not home, and my dad's at work. So it's my mom and I don't know what the reason was. And she looked at her watch and looked at the calendar, and she said, Sam, come on with me. I want to go up the street. We lived on Lois Drive, and it butted into Paddock Road, right by Macathewal Country Club. Anyway, if you look to the left, up the hill on the top, there was a place called Longview. It was a mental hospital.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I know what you're talking
so
about.
my mother and I are standing on the corner of Lois Drive and Paddock Road, looking up the hill. And I've never seen this before, and I hope to God I never see it again. Coming over the hill were all these people walking down the middle of the road. All the cars pulled over and stopped. Now, what that day was the day that they passed the law that people that were in Longview that were mentally ill, unless they were a danger to themselves or others, they had to be released, which was a lot of them. But a lot of them had problems that they could never exist in society. That didn't matter to these people. They could get out and be on their own. Well, they couldn't. So my mother was standing there looking at me and crying. And she said to me, she said, Sam, I want you to, I brought you here to see this. This up there, walking down towards you, is the beginning of the end. This country will not make it if we allow this to happen. And she was absolutely right. That was a long time ago, but it hasn't changed. And if you take someone that either experiences a bad situation or is born with mental deficiency and you put them out into public and expect them to function, it's not going to happen.
Well, and now think about when you go into a restaurant.
Yes.
Think about when applying that to a veteran, right?
Yes.
And especially someone who has seen combat.
Yep.
And I've got to be facing the door. I got
Yeah.
to know my escape routes. I got to know how I can take my family and get them out the back door quickly. That kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that, oh yeah.
On 9/11, I was working at my brother's office. He had prostate cancer and he couldn't work, so I had two offices up north. I had other guys working there. I just gave him the keys and said, my brother needs me. So I'm working on this guy in the chair. I did a filling, and he was a Vietnam veteran like myself. So Connie comes around the corner and said a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. Of course, 20 minutes later, she came around the corner again and said the second plane flew in to the other World Trade Center. As soon as she said that, I'm finishing up the filling. He looked at me and I looked at him, and we knew exactly what was going on. It was a terrorist attack. He sits up in the chair. I take the bib off of him. He stands up. Up to that point, he always called me Dr. Arnold. not now. He goes, Sam? I said, yeah, Joe. He said, you just clicked back in, didn't you? I said, yes, sir, and I probably will never click back out. And he's absolutely right. When a situation like that comes up for a veteran, he goes right back into combat mode.
Right. Right. Now with that thought in mind,
Yeah, go ahead.
now we're getting into, I think, kind of where I'm at even is your mind goes to those young guys,
Yeah,
those young gals,
absolutely.
those youngsters are doing the stuff. I mean, take for instance right now. I know we've lost a couple in the last few months from all this stuff in Iran, and now that I'm retired, I'm looking at that and I'm like, "Daggone it, why am I not there?"
I said to Nancy 2 weeks ago, I said, Nancy, maybe I should have done more in Vietnam. Maybe I shouldn't have allowed myself to be medevac. Maybe if I'd have done a better job, this wouldn't be happening today.
So,
But we both know better.
and the what ifs.
Yeah, can't live
But
like
you
that.
can't exactly. So
Yeah, it doesn't do any good.
It's what you started, what you had a hand in starting back in 2001 helped a lot of people, Sam. I hope you know that. I hope you know that.
Yeah, well,
You look at my mother, right?
oh yeah,
Me
I
and
know
my
your
brother,
mom real well.
me and Steve both were, we're both jarheads. So we
Well,
were in
tell the
Iraq at
people.
the same
Remember,
time.
you and your brother were both Marines.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so for us, you being there for my mom, for my dad, and for the hundreds of others that come and go from that group down there in Blue Ash.
Oh yeah,
The Harts, the
you
Brzezinskis, right? Like you have been there for so many over the last 25 years.
the two things that happened to me that saved my life. First of all, I found Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Now, to most people, oh well, that happens a lot. But the thing for anyone that doesn't have a a power greater than himself, and he succumbs to that,
A lost soul
is a lost soul. Because any problem that comes up that you don't have an answer for, you have to trust in God and His Son that they have an answer.
Well,
and you'll know about it
and,
sooner or later.
And how many times in the Bible do we see Proverbs, right? In Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And what we're doing right here, right now,
Yeah.
and what I hope to accomplish from this is to continue having iron sharpen iron.
If you go through what we went through, and you come home and you come back forward into civilian life. Now, civilian life is totally different than what I grew up with, and you grew up with. But these kids today are growing up with a civilian life that is almost like a war zone. And that makes the difference. That is not good for a child to grow up that way. Any child anywhere in the world.
Well, and the realization that it's not our plan, right?
And that therein lies
and I love this particular verse, Jeremiah 29:11, and Jeremiah is trying to get across that it isn't our plan, it's God's plan, and we're along for the ride, and we have to accept. He gave us free will. He's told us you go live your life, right?
Right. But you have choices to make.
But ultimately, His plan will be.
Look, if you read the books, the Old and New Testament, it doesn't end very well.
No.
For us. But that is God's plan.
Right.
We
Because we belong to
can
him.
put it off, but we have to go along with his plan, not our plan. And so many people, look, every year there's a new Bible written. But when you turn the page over that says Bible, on the back of that page there are dates. And it's copyrighted. Now, what that means is somewhere in that book, some person that wrote the book changed the book, and you are not allowed to copy that and put it in something else. It's his words. The only book, the only Bible that is not copyrighted, King James Second Edition. Why? Because man never touched it. It was God. Now, the one question that I always have, and I had gone to Sunday school all the way till I graduated high school, and I went to Hebrew Union College. So I had, and it was 4 hours every Sunday, because as Jewish, you went to the synagogue or temple on Saturday. It was the Sabbath.
Because it was the last day of the week.
Right, exactly. But if I had probably one of the best religious educations that most people ever get, not going to seminary or becoming a minister or a rabbi or anything else. But the point I'm trying to make here is that when you get to the point where that you realize that all the things you will learn, all the things you will do, you will run up against a brick wall. And that's when you got to look upwards and put your faith in somebody else that you've never met, but he exists. And if you really, really want to be truthful about it, every day you wake up, open your eyes, because the miracles are happening all around you. And if you are so self-centered and selfish that you're only looking what's in it for me, you will never see what's really happening in the world.
Don't take life so serious. You're not going
No,
to get
you
out
never come
alive
out
anyway.
of it alive.
There it is.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
So when, with all of that in mind, and I remember sitting with you I think it was last summer.
Yeah.
It was last summer. We were sitting at your kitchen table having pizza.
Yep.
And we started spitballing ideas of, you know, going into schools and talking to the youngsters. But they always end up having the questions of, oh, have you killed anybody? Have you done this? Have you done that?
They don't understand.
But they exactly. I don't think that they fully understand the dynamics of what that actually means. And and when you started talking about what happened on that road in Vietnam, the flexion in your voice
went up.
Went up.
Yeah.
And that's one of those signs, right? That that you can probably even notice in yourself now.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've noticed it in myself, and you know, identifying those things and trying to understand what it means. What does that mean? And you're a doctor. I'm not even a counselor. I'm just a dude on the street that cares about other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really where this kind of goes into is how can we use this platform to help one another through our own stories and maybe build those bridges so our families can kind of understand us a little bit better.
I think the one thing that you and I have learned, okay, is that the more you reach out to help someone else, the more you improve and you can live with yourself. I know when 9/11 happened, I looked in the mirror. I have 3 sons and a daughter. My daughter's the baby. My 3 sons, there was two Navy and one Air Force. And I looked in the mirror and I said, all right, Sam, it's time to step up back on the plate. What are you going to do? So I took my practice and I took my cards that you give to patients and took a couple of hundred of them. And I went down to the VA on Vine Street. And I know Todd Sledge real well. And I gave him my cards. He said, Sam, what's this for? I said, I want you to hand these out to veterans that are coming to the VA that are not eligible for dental care. He said, okay. 2 weeks, he called me. He says, I need more cards. I got him more cards. I did this for 16 years. A day or a day and a half out of my office, I did a veteran or veterans.
You
And
cleaned my
whatever
teeth
they needed, I did it. Huh?
during my broken service time. You
Yeah.
cleaned my teeth once or twice.
Yeah. Whatever they needed a crown, a bridge, a denture, a bar, it doesn't matter. I never charged them a dime. But a funny thing happened while I was doing this. The more I did it for them, the more they were doing for me. I mean, we're sitting here in my den, and I'm sure you people can see the things on the wall. And my oldest son, served 31 years in the Navy. And I mean, that's a whole different story. But a lot of things happen that nobody gets recognition for, and nobody cares whether they do or not. Because in their mind, it's like me being on that road on Highway 1 in that ditch. They wanted to give me a Purple Heart and Silver Star. I didn't go down and get it. And I'm talking to the colonel who is the aide for the general of Westmoreland. He ran the show. And I said to him, I said, that isn't my job. My job is to save lives, not to take them. Unfortunately, I was the only one in a position to save 75, 80 men their lives, which is okay. That was also my job. But I don't
Saving
have to get a medal for it. I didn't even know
saving
what they were.
saving one life is worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's a picture over on the thing over there of my Uncle Al. He was in World War II. He received 8 Bronze Stars with valor.
Oh wow.
That means every time he got a Bronze Star, it was in combat. He comes home, and my mom and daddy's not married, and Al, the three of them, go to Beverly Hills for dinner. They're sitting at one of those little tables with a candle in the middle. There's a comedian on it. It could have been Frank. Sammy Davis Jr. Didn't matter. But Beverly Hills was, they had the top people coming there, singers and whatever. Anyway, there's a table next to my mom and dad's, and the guy was downgrading military personnel. Okay, how stupid anybody was to join the military. My Uncle Al, and you talk about you know, psychological problems, reaches over and grabs that light, pulls the lampshade off, breaks the bulb, and you know what he's got in his hand? A
Oh
weapon.
yeah. Oh
My
yeah.
dad came across the table and grabbed him, and they left. And they didn't charge him anything anyway. So the point is that my dad then finally realized that his baby brother, okay, had some problems coming back from Germany, from World War II. Anyway, when my father died, he says to me, and that was a number of years ago, not many. He says, Sam, when I die, take this envelope and put it on my chest and bury me with it. I said, what's the envelope for, Bob? He says, that was the envelope when your Uncle Al and I went down to enlist. They wouldn't take me because I had malarial symptoms. I was going to sign a waiver if I could go to Germany and not to Japan, because that's where the islands were in
Sure.
the mosquito. Well, they wouldn't do that, so he couldn't go. But my father, it bothered him his whole life that he couldn't go and serve. And in my family, he was the only one that never went. My uncles were in World War One, World War Two. Nobody got Korea. I was Vietnam, and then of course my kids have been serving, and my son just got out 5 years ago. He spent 31 years in the Navy. They interviewed him 4 times for admiralty and wanted him to be an admiral, and he says, "No, I'm done." He says, "I had enough fun." You know, he was the Commodore of the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain.
That's
So
really cool.
he saw some. He he prevented World War III. Now nobody knows about that, and that's okay. But the point was, he saw enough of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would he would go in Washington when he was stationed there. He'd go to the parties and for all the big shots, senators and congressmen. And it was so funny. He said, "Dad, whenever I walked into the room, I would look around, and if I saw one Marine, I would always somebody was coming, would be talking, and they would always say, 'What do you do in the Navy?' And he had a standard answer for this. He says, 'I have one job and one job only: give the Marines a ride.'" And
I like that.
yeah, I know you do.
I like that.
Yeah. He said, and also was keep the Straits of Hormuz open, which I'm beginning to understand how important that really is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So but that was his whole naval career. He unfortunately saw combat. He did everything. And he was getting ready to get out, and the admiral calls him into the office and says, "Andrew, would you mind extending the year? Because we've checked the whole Navy, and what project you're working on now, nobody can do your job but you." Well, he's not married, he had no children, so he did. They gave him something. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but
So closing out
yeah.
on this show,
Go ahead.
I want to thank you.
Well,
I want to thank you for um, always being there. Uh, a lot of us younger vets, we do look up to you.
thank you.
Um, I want to tell everybody out here that um, this guy is one of the reasons I started group at my church. One of the reasons I started this, and I'm glad to know you. I'm glad that we still got you around, and I hope that that this thing grows and that we can maybe get you back on here and talk some more sometime.
Well, Brian, to worry about growing, I think it's already happened. And the reason is I've talked to a couple of guys, and it's kind of funny about something that starts that's really good for the country. Because right now I have a list of 25 physicians that want to come on this show.
Right on.
And these
Any
are
of them
guys that
vets?
all of them are.
I
And
like it.
all of them have been in combat.
I
They were
like it.
in the hospital sewing up guys. Okay. And
Give them my
yeah,
information.
I can honestly say this. It was a month ago. I was watching television. I don't remember what the show was, but it pushed the button that had never been pushed before in my head. That as a dentist, I would go out and do triage when they bring the choppers in of the wounds. Would they be where they're going to die and they put in one area, or where they go right into the surgery. And I can't tell you, I'm glad I can't tell you how many men I held in my arms that the last words they said were to me. They all asked for their mother, not their wives and not their children, but to hold someone in your arms and give them maybe their last drink of water or whatever it was, but the last words that came out of their mouth were to you. Those were sacred words. And I can honestly say that that night I would cry myself to sleep because I knew that no one would ever hear that man's words again.
No, and here you are
And here I am
telling.
telling, yeah, it's everyone that is in the military. You never know when your back's going to be against the wall and you have to do something and you don't really have a choice. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's why when you take that oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, when you leave the military, nobody says you're absolved of the oath.
Oh my!
Right now, you have over 18 million veterans. You have the biggest army in the world. And every one of us would stand up right now and defend this country, whether alive, me included.
100%.
You got that separate spot.
So, again, we appreciate you. We
Thank
appreciate you
you.
coming on. I think this first 30 steps is
Yeah, it's the first one
this
that's a
first
killer.
30-inch step
Yep.
is it's
best-
like stepping over a canyon.
It's a big one. That may be only a small one when we were marching, but that one now is a big one.
Yeah.
But it has to be made.
Yeah.
You have to.
So I want to say to our viewers, if you know somebody that has a story to tell, and don't hesitate to hit me up. Also, I do have a email address for the show, and it is, I'm getting it up right now. Oh my goodness, I should have had this up before. How about that, huh?
He's a Marine. Give him a little slide.
So it's the.30.inch.step@gmail.com. If you know anybody, you see anybody, please hit me up. If you have my number, you have my handle, you know how to get in touch with me.
Well, tell me, say this. If you forget that, my phone number is 513-520-9600. Call me anytime and I'll get a hold of Brian for you.
I appreciate that.
Okay?
I
No problem.
appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
We will
having me.
definitely see you next time, hopefully next week with somebody else. We'll see you later.